just going to ask you a bunch of questions. So the first one is, what is your full name? And are you named after anyone?
Yeah, my full name is Elizabeth Maria. Actually, Matteau was my name, my last name, and before I got married, and I was named, and I was actually called Beppy, which I didn't like that name, so now they call me Betty and Elizabeth, so that's fine. But I was named after one of my favorite aunts, actually. But at the time when I was born, I didn't know, but she became my favorite aunt because she was very sweet and would always really hug you when she came in. And she had kind of a boisterous appearance. So yeah, she was very wonderful. Came to my birthdays and bought me small presents. So yeah, it was very nice, and that's who I was named after. It was
That's
my
awesome.
mother's, yeah, it was my mother's sister.
Well, thanks for sharing that. That's a really nice story. Next question. What school did you go to as a kid? And do you have any striking memories of your school? And could you also tell us a little bit about your education and all that?
Yeah, well, I went to a school that was entirely run by nuns, and even our principal, she was a very strict, stern nun, and everyone was a little bit scared of her, and actually a little bit of all the nuns, because there were certain rules and that you always had to stick to, and you had to stay after school when you broke them. And I never forget that one day it had been raining, and I was wearing boots, rubber boots, and I came into the school, and it was a tiled floor, so I kind of really slapped my rubber boots, wet rubber boots, on the tile floor, and standing in or walking in line to my classroom. And anyway, so it made a really nice swishy sound, which I really liked. And so then the principal came to me, and she heard that it was me, and she says, "Oh, of course, that's that Matteau again." Well, I was 7 years old. I was always very sweet, I know. I didn't dare to do much that was beside the rules. And so then, of course, I went all the way like this. But I know always when I thought back on that event, I always thought that, of course, that Matteau again, that was really silly to say that, because I never did anything wrong.
Yeah. Was it like an all-girls school?
Yes, it was an all-girls school, yeah. And as a matter of fact, when I went to school the first time, I never went to kindergarten. When I went to school for the first time, I just went to school, and the building was kind of dark, and big brown doors to go into, and a wrought iron gate around it. So I was just so intimidated by that and scared that I turned right around and went back home.
Yeah.
So I came home. And my mom said, "What are you doing here? Why are you not in school?" And I just said, "I don't want to go to school. It's scary." So
Big,
she
scary
said,
building.
yeah. So she said, "Well, you'll have to go to school." And so what they organized from the school, there were 2 grade 6 girls who would pick me up from home, take me by my hand, take me to school, made sure I was in the classroom when they left. And that's how I eventually learned or made it a habit, I guess, to stay in school when I got there. But I never forget that I was kind of stubborn, I guess. And I thought, I'm not going to go in here. So I just turned around and went home.
You live far?
It was about a 15-minute walk. Yeah.
And you just walked by yourself.
So, yeah, so that wasn't too bad. But anyways, and the girls kind of lived the way that I had to go anyway. So they didn't mind. I think they felt kind of special.
That's really nice. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, did you have a dream job, a career that you really wanted? And did you end
Yeah.
up pursuing a career?
It's kind of a complicated story, but anyways, the beginning is not so complicated. I was very sure that every time when people asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said I want to be a mother of children, and not a mother of dogs, anything like that, of cats or monkeys. No, I wanted to be a mother of children. And I had that idea so fast and so solidly in my mind that even I saw myself when I was about 12 years old or something. I still thought, yeah, I want to have children. I knew that for sure. And well, it turned out, that part turned out really okay. And because I have 4 children and 9 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren, so I got a lot of children. And but other things that I wanted to do when I was finished with my schooling, I wanted to go to university. And my sister was already in university, and I really wanted to go there. But by that time, my parents had found me a place where I could learn to sew, because they wanted to have someone in the family who could sew. So anyways, I went there. I was sitting on an upstairs room in a house that was kind of dark. And there was one lady there who ran the shop, say, and she had customers. And then we did the hemming and finishing seams and whatever. So I was already there, but one day I said to my mother, you know what, I really want to go to university. And I was a reader, like I almost ate books. And even when I was supposed to do other things, I would sit behind the chair and take a book from the shelf and start reading. And then she would just come behind that chair and say, oh, she's reading again. Don't you have anything else to do? So let them make beds and Swiffer and whatever. Anyways, so that idea of going to university really, really stayed in my mind. But then when I finally dared to ask my mom, I really, really want to go to university. I don't like to do where I am right now and learning to sew. And no, it was not something that I wanted. So, and my mother said, yeah, but I really, really need the money you make, So anyways, I thought, oh, well, and that's how docile I was in a way that I said, well, okay then. So then I went on and became a seamstress and eventually had my own company where I had my customers and I sewed for. But then when I was older, that idea of learning, and I had always said, I hope that I still learn something on the day that I die. And so anyways, but then when I started to work in an office, and so there was a possibility for me to go to school after work, which I did. So I had about 10 courses that I took at the college, what is now university, Mount Royal University. It was Mount Royal College. And I went there after school, after work. And I just loved it. I loved every minute of it. And I read a lot of books that I otherwise would not have read, I think. And the teachers, the professors were also so interested in you wanting to learn and them helping me to learn. That I really got that impression from them. Yeah.
So university was like a really rewarding experience for you?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it was. It was wonderful when I finally got around to it. But then I was already, I think 45 or 50 or something. So, but even now, the idea of learning, I really, really, I'm just hungry for it. Right now, even I'm trying to learn to play chess, which is still a little complicated, but anyways, I'm learning the moves, and so yeah, so I'm always learning. And
Yeah, that's
reading.
good. It's never too
Yeah.
late to learn something new.
Yeah, exactly, Stella. Yeah, I love it.
So you mentioned that you had a lot of children, so I assume you got married? And if so, how did you meet your spouse? How did your proposal go, and what was your wedding like?
Well, I met my husband actually at my family home. My father played the piano, and people started to say, "Oh, we should set up a band," you know. So then in the beginning, we had two people playing the accordion. We had one play the drums, and then the piano. So so they came every Tuesday night. They came to our house to practice, and I love that. And the one I just not long ago, I told my husband, I said, you know what, that one accordion player, I was really in love with him for a long time. I said, I always looked at his arms, you know, the way they moved when he played the accordion. So yeah, that was very nice. But anyways, then they said we should really have a saxophone in here. That would be a good band. So they asked a guy, which later became my husband, to play the saxophone in the band. So he did, and he came, and he was there every Tuesday night as well, and for quite a number of years. And so actually I knew him when it started. I knew him when I was 14 years old. And I became friends with his sister. And anyways, and that's how it grew. And then one day, his sister said to me, you know what, he is going to ask you to go for a walk with him. I said, how do you know? And she says, well, because he sent away his friends. So that means that he was not going with them. He was going to ask me to go for a walk. And we did that, and then we did it more and more and more. And yeah, and that's how it kind of grew. It was not even a time, yeah, we had a kiss somewhere in a park all of a sudden, you know. Because we were, you know, how you are at that age, we were running and in the grass, and anyways, and all of a sudden we stopped, and then he came to me and he kissed me, and so I thought, well, that's kind of nice. And so since then, he never really said to me, do you want to marry me or something? Yeah, we just, and he hugged me, and then, you know, kissed me again, and then we went out more and more together, and then we stayed together, and we loved it. We had so much of the same interest and the same, we liked the same things, you know, that going for walks and going to somewhere in just any city. We would just go any city, take a can of peaches and a can opener, and we would go to that city. We would sit on the train station, open a can of peaches, share that with the two of us. We always had a fork with us too. And then we went into the town and just walked around, and then went home again. And we did that often on a Saturday or on a Sunday. So yeah, that was really something that kind of bound us together, those kind of experiences, yeah. And then, of course, when we came to Canada, we became campers and hikers, and, you know, so, but anyways, yeah, that was, and then, yeah, you asked about our wedding. The wedding was very, very simple, as it was at that time. It was 1957. And we had to wait for a long time because the housing situation was terrible, so you couldn't find a place to live. Finally, we were able to rent one room and a little room in the attic at an older lady's place. And we were really excited, of course, because finally we could get married. And the wedding day, I had sewed my own wedding dress, and it was all very exciting, but it was just going to be a family wedding. So just brothers, sisters, and their partners, whoever that may be. So, and my mom did the cooking. She made a big pot of soup. She cooked potatoes and vegetables and beautiful steaks. And we had very fancy pudding with all kind of fruit in it. And that's what my future brother-in-law made, who was a chef. And he made that pudding. And I always remember it's still my favorite pudding. So yeah, it was a really nice day. So, and in the afternoon, for about an hour or so, some friends came in. And as a matter of fact, one of my uncles came, and I was really surprised. And I was a very nice uncle, but never that I really was attached to him, other than I stayed with him when my mother was having a baby once for 6 weeks, and I was staying at their place. And they had so many nice toys and all that. So I loved staying there. And but we never had contact after that. Or anyways, he brought a beautiful paint. He was a painter. He made beautiful pictures. So, and he brought a beautiful painting that he did, and for our wedding. And I was so in a way so surprised. And even now when I talk about it, I feel a little moved by that thought, that he did that for us. So, and it's still hanging on our wall here. So yeah, it's a very special painting for us.
Covered it. Thank you. That's an amazing story. I'd love to hear about your wedding, just how you made your dress and everything to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and after that day, we just went to our little place there up in the attic, and actually the lady wasn't very nice, and she was constantly, when we were stayed in bed on Sunday morning, she would call us, "It's time to get up." Well, that was not really an exciting start, but it was okay. We had a place to stay. That was important.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Next question. Did you encounter any unexpected twists in the road of life?
Oh, a couple. Quite a few, actually. Yeah. And sometimes it made life exciting. Sometimes it made life a little sad, or whatever it may be. Anyways, one really big thing was that my husband got the idea that he really wanted to move to Canada. And I was not excited about it. I said no, and we had, by that time we had 4 children, and the youngest was 3 years old. So I could not see myself root them up and go to a different country, have them learn a different language, and not see my family again. And no, I couldn't see it. But then he started to give me all kind of reasons, or why it would be really good for us and for the children. And that he says, you know what, you just have to get used to the idea. You have to learn the language, but you don't mind learning. So finally, in the end, he was so convincing that I said, yeah, okay, maybe it is a good idea. So, and that was a big event in my life. Big enough that I will always remember everything that I said before and everything that I said after. As a matter of fact, one of the things that was important that I said after was when we went for the very first time from Calgary to Banff by Greyhound bus. And my husband had told his boss that I was so homesick, that I was so homesick. And so his boss, and we didn't have very much money at the time either. So his boss said, well, how about I give you $20. You go with your family on Saturday to Banff by Greyhound, and then see how she feels after that. And my goodness, I have to try not to start crying. Anyway, so we did that. We had a wonderful time. It was fantastic. The whole time on the way, I was looking out the window, taking it all in, almost drinking it in, the beauty of nature. And and then seeing the mountains when we got there. And I was so impressed that I said, then we went back. My boss, I remember we had French fries at Smitty's there. And we walked around, and the kids really liked it too. And so anyways, I was just so moved by this whole beauty of the mountains and Banff. And anyways, and then we went back on the bus again, on the Greyhound bus, to go home. And then on the way, I said to my husband, this was worth 6 months of tears. So that made me really, starting to fall in love with Canada. Yeah.
So it was worth it to come here?
I'm sorry?
It was worth it to come here?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, exactly, Stella. Yeah, that's what made it really worth it to come here. And after that, I was always ready to go to the mountains, and then slowly but surely we got a tent and we got a stuff to cook in, and slowly but surely we built it up, and then we started to go for camping for weekends, and then we went, and it was already we went to Canada in 68. In 69, we did our first week-long camping trip with a tent that our neighbors had lent us. So, and that was just a party. It was fantastic. Yeah, it became all just a feast. Whenever we could go out, we went out. And I never forget that our youngest daughter, when we were doing dishes on a picnic table, like you do, and she was drying the dishes, and she looked around and she says, "I really like drying dishes in the mountains." Isn't that cute? I never forget that. I can still hear her say that. So yeah, it became a really wonderful time, always. Yeah.
So you became a really outdoorsy person?
Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I still am, in a way. Whenever I would have a chance to go there, I would go. But of course, now that's out of the question. But maybe Doreen had said that maybe when this was over, that we could go a day to the mountains and just see it all again. I mean, luckily we see a little bit. We see some tops of the mountains here from our balcony. So that's our saving grace here. We love that.
Well, I hope you get the chance to go back.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. Yeah, I hope so too.
If I were to ask your family, what fun fact would they tell us about you?
Well, there's one thing that I always had to hear from when I was very small, maybe 6 years old or something, that they started to say if aunts and uncles were visiting, and they always told the story about me, that when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I was really loved sweets. And I made it a habit of getting the sugar bowl from the tea table. We had a special tea table with the cups on it. Anyways, I would grab the sugar bowl and I would go to the door, close the door, sit against it, put the sugar bowl in between my legs and eat the sugar spoon by spoon by spoonful. So yeah, that is one thing that I always told them.
That sounds like something I would do still to this day.
Yeah, hey? You like sweets, eh?
I love candy, chocolate, everything. It's a bad habit how much I eat.
Yeah.
So my final question is, I heard you grew up during World War II, and I heard you want to talk a little bit about that. So could you tell us a bit about growing up during World War II and how that was in your experience with that?
Oh, do you have a week? Do you have a week so I can tell you? Anyway, yeah, there's so many things that I remember from the war. One thing that the last winter during that war in Holland, it was called, even now still when they talk about this, the hunger winter. Like lots of people died in Holland, and there was not enough food, there was not enough, there were no coals or whatever. So my older sister and I were the ones that had to take care of getting things for the little wood stove that we had. It was iron, and it had a bottom, and it had a lid on the top, and you just threw wood in there and you lit them, and that's how you got your heat. And my mom would cook on top because there was no gas, there was nothing. It was just, you had to really think yourself of things to do to get to eat and to get some heat. And because it happened to be one of the worst winters in the history of my country at that time. And so anyways, my sister and I went every day. So by that time, I was 11. Yeah. And so we walked to a town that had been bombed. So the houses were all rubble. And so anyways, and I don't know now even how we got to know that we could get wood there. Well, we couldn't get it. We had to take it. So, but my sister and I went every day to that city, and it was a harbor city, and that's why it was bombed, of course. And so it was about an hour and 15 minutes that it took us to get there. And then we went to the homes, just in a street where there was all rubble. And then we went into that was once a house, a home, and of course it was all kind of wood, like there were stairs and cupboards and walls and whatever it may be. And we would have a saw with us, and we would cut it up. And we had a little. My grandpa, who lived with us, had made a little wooden box on top of the bottom of a pram. So they had taken it off the top of the pram and put that box on there. So, and we created a really good system, because the box was quite large, but we had to pile it up. So what we did, we put a high beam that we found, put it in each corner of that box, so that we could not only fill up the box initially, but then put longer pieces over top. And they would stay in between the ones that stood in the corner. So yeah, we really, and you know what when I look back on it, when I'm surprised about, that there was not a day that we said like, can we stay home? Or, you know, I don't really want to go. Or it was so just part of living, you know, that was the only way you could survive. So that's what we did. And then every night we came home, you had to be back before 8 o'clock because there was a curfew. But yeah, there was every day we went there, and we had to go every day because it was just enough to fill this little wood stove, whatever you call it. I wish I could show you a picture. But anyways, that was all we had. And then it would die out a little bit towards the morning, and still have a little bit of heat in the house. And then we had to go out again and do it again. And the thing that I also remember is that we were not dressed for it. We were not. I had a cape. You call it a cape, I think. It's really flimsy material, kind of blew in the wind. And I had rubber boots, so when it was really cold, below freezing, and you walked in snow and slush. I remember especially the slush, how it made your feet really, really cold. And we had one pair of mitts that we shared. So sometimes I wore it, and then my hand got really warm, and then I gave it to my sister. And even when we were gathering the wood, we would take turns. Okay, you pull out that beam, and then or this stick or whatever it may be, and then you take the mitts. So yeah, we were really working together, I guess. Yeah, not I guess, it's true, because I remember that, how we were so, in a way, peaceful together, I guess. And we never thought either what I would do now. Boy, I wonder what happened to the people who lived here, you know, in those homes. And because they were nice homes, but they were just all bombed. So yeah, that was not a pleasant experience. I had one time though, that sometimes there was a sort of a gate there at the beginning of this city, and there was always German soldiers were stayed there guarding. So, and they really looked who went in and who went out, and what you had with you. And so one day we had our cart full of wood, and we came to that gate, and it had never happened before, but one of the soldiers stopped us. And he said, not in so many words, but still told us that we had to empty our cart. And we thought, empty our cart? No, we need this to take home. And I saw that there was already a big pile of wood there. So I thought, oh, there was other people that had to give up their wood. So, but I thought, I'm not going to do it. No, absolutely not. So all I could do, I started crying. I started crying really, really hard, you know, and I felt so stubborn inside. I thought, no, I'm not going to empty this cart that took so much time all day and so much hard work to fill it up. And why would I give it to someone else? I really did not see the logic or the purpose or whatever. So, and it took a long time. And my sister started to cry too. And she put her hand sort of on my shoulder and to comfort me, and said, maybe we have to do it. And I said, no, I'm not going to do it. This is our wood. And finally, this one of the soldiers went to us like, okay, go. Sort of, that's what we understood. So of course we went very fast. And when I walked away, I still had sort of the feeling, I felt those eyes in my back that maybe they would call us and say, hey, no, you have to come back, you know, empty it. But no, they didn't. So we told my mom when we came home what had happened, of course, and she said, oh, good for you, you know, that you did not give up, that you just stayed crying. That was a good thing.